Do you know making disciples is important, but don't really know what it looks like? It can be actually pretty simple, but most people go about it the wrong way. Let's look at two options for you to bring God glory. Option 1. You get serious about evangelism, and this year you share the gospel with 1,000 people, and you lead 1,000 people to Christ. Not bad, huh? You do that again in year 2, another 1,000. And again in year 3. Let's say you do that for 30 years. 30,000 people will know Jesus because you shared your faith and God moved in their heart. That's incredible. But let's be realistic. If I told you to share the gospel with 1,000 people a year, how would you feel? A little overwhelmed, probably. How about another option? A more biblical option, and the one Jesus modeled. Year 1, you pour your life into 2 people. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to be a week ahead of someone, and since you're being discipled by someone else, you just take what you've learned and teach these 2 people how to love God, love others, and make disciples themselves. Then those 2 find 2 of their own to disciple the next year. After year 3, those disciples are making disciples of their own. Any guesses to what year 30 looks like? Over 1 billion people. Billion, with a B. A tad bit more than the 30,000 from option 1, and the best part is these aren't just people who have prayed a prayer at some large rally to become Christian. These are maturing believers pouring their lives into others and living on mission for God. What's the difference in the 2 options? One is addition, the other is multiplication. God's plan to save the world is multiplication, and He's commanded us to be fruitful and multiply spiritually. Honestly, leading 1,000 people to Christ every year is exhausting and unrealistic. But pouring into 2 people is easily doable and significantly more impactful. It doesn't have to be some elaborate or well put together teaching. You don't need a seminary degree or all the answers. It's trusting and relying on the Lord to help you build His kingdom. It's simply you pointing them to Jesus. Now, I don't want you to think this is just my idea or how certain churches do it. So let's look at what the Bible says. In 2 Timothy 2:2, the Apostle Paul is writing to his disciple Timothy and says, "And what you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." Let's break it down. Paul is writing to Timothy and tells him to entrust something to faithful men. So what is the what in this verse? It's all the things Timothy has been taught by Paul, and we can simplify it by just saying the gospel. What kind of men was Timothy to entrust the gospel to? Faithful men. That's important. God's called us not to be spiritual consumers, but spiritual contributors, and this verse tells us how to do that, by being faithful men. And then Paul defines faithful men. They teach others. And if these others are faithful men, they'll teach others as well. And on and on and on. These 2 illustrations look very similar, don't they? And I hope they're encouraging to you that discipleship isn't nothing fancy, and anyone can do it. The best part about stepping out in faith to make disciples is Jesus gives us a unique promise to be with us in a special way. You're never alone. So let me know in the comments how discipleship has changed your life, or any other questions you have about what we specifically do. Stay tuned for more videos where we'll break down specific passages and how they teach us Jesus' heart for discipleship.